It's a double sun day today. We have a sun transit at 26 minutes past midnight. So we've just, well, hours ago, we had that. And we've got another one at 23:52 this evening. These timings are in BST. So where you are, you may not be having a double Sunday. But anyway, this is what we're having here in the UK. And so you'll get two transits today. It is a fourth line day. I'm tempted to think it's a third line day. It's a fourth line day. We are in gate 4, and line 4 has the wonderful name of the liar. This is one of those lines that gets people a bit hot under the collar. You know, it's that word prejudice thing. Nobody wants to be called a liar, after all. I have this activation, and I have to say I didn't like it. When I first heard it, it's like, really? And then it was explained to me, and I looked into it, and it was actually spot on. So what to do? It's one of those things. I recognized it in myself. I resonated to it because we look at lifetime learning and we have something called role playing as an art form, the actor. And of course, that's what actors do, isn't it? They go on stage, they play a part, they're lying against their true nature in a way. I mean, not in that heavy judgmental way, but they're taking on a role. And in that role, we have the liar. So in the exaltation, it says fantasy protects and nurtures a sense of purpose and reason, no matter how misguided. The potential to find or illustrate the formulas through fantasy, through lying. These people not only love answers, but they make them up as they go along. That's what they're good at. You know, if they can't figure out how a mathematical formula actually works, they just make up their own. And that can be absolutely incredible. Making formulas up doesn't mean that you're not going to have an impact with them. Liars can have great impact. They fool you. Oh, you can fool lots of people by giving them an answer that isn't true. As humans, we do tend to have a bit of a moral code around honesty, but this human being has a structure in which they have no choice but to externalize answers, whether they have answers or not. And if they don't have the answer, then they make it up because they'll be afraid otherwise that they'll be seen as someone who has no answers. Well, it goes completely against their nature. This is an ajna gate, and the ajna is an awareness center. And you may know all of the gates in all the awareness centers, they either carry fear in the splenic center, they carry nervousness in the solar plex, or anxiety if they're in the ajna. So here there is that anxiety. It's part of the mechanic. If you don't have an answer, you'll be seen as someone who never has an answer, and maybe you'll never get asked again. So the job of this fourth line in the fourth gate is to externalize answers, which isn't to say that all of those answers are going to be useless. That's not true. You know, what can happen though is that they can keep on trying to externalize an answer that is unreasonable. And it's often the same answer. They get very fixed into one answer for every question. And then this leads to problems for them, of course, because everyone says, it's just the same thing all the time. Whatever you ask them, it's the same thing. I'm sick and tired of it. I'm not going to ask them anything anymore. You know, you say to them, the world's burning down. And they say, become a vegetarian. And you tell them your dog has fleas. Become a vegetarian. Whatever it is. Become a vegetarian. It's the same answer. And it's the fixedness of the line 4. It's not like it's their fault, so to speak. You know, it's the mechanic of being a fourth line. In the detriment, time always brings humiliation. The potential danger to see fantasy as fact. There are many, many scientists in this world who are under incredible pressure to publish. And they're trying to get jobs and scientific factories and money and do their experiments and push it all out into the world. They want to fulfill the needs of the logic circuit. And this costs a lot of money. And these days, you have to be a star. You have to be a famous scientist because that's what makes you attractive to people with money. You need to have a bit of that seduction thing going on. And yet it's been discovered that from anywhere from 5% to 10% of answers that are given are just plain nonsense. There's no real experimentation behind them. And they get caught out with that. And it's not really a moral issue. We might make it into a moral issue, but it's not like it's their fault. It's not like they're bad. It's an example of what happens when you have a gift for giving answers, and then you're placed under pressure to always have an answer. And so in that sense, the detriment is always about those times in which it's not your greatest answers that people appreciate, but it's that one answer that isn't correct that is then going to come in and destroy everything that you've ever done. So people will forget about all the wonderful stuff you've ever said. Often time will bring humiliation. It's a tough line. And this is pretending to understand, which can be wonderful. It can be very artistic. It's that actor line. Remember, that was the lifetime learning. And it can also be great fun, but it can also be very stressful. And you imagine a child who has this fourth line and they lie. That's what they do. And they are constantly caught out for lying. And so their reputation isn't as being someone who is a fantastical creature who brings these amazing answers to things and uses their fantasy in that respect to bring answers, to act out life's pageant. They get labeled as being a liar, which is labeled as being bad. It's very stressful for a child, speaking as one who knows. It's a difficult line to carry. When you have the awareness around it, like any of these lines, then it becomes so much easier, both for yourself and then when you see it in others, or when you are talking to others about their family, their children, their experiences, because you can see the mechanic and it can take out some of the, I was going to say poison out of it. And all of that judgment, of course, can be quite poisonous. So having the awareness around it makes a really big difference. So this is grounded in the 49th gate, line 4, called platform. And the fourth line is very important, as we know, because its job is to externalize what has been gained in the lower trigram. That's its job. The lower trigram has its process. The fourth line externalizes it. It externalizes the foundation of what this hexagram is all about. And this is the platform that the liar can stand on to externalize its wonderful fantasies, its formulas, and play its role, stand on the stage and act it out. Venus has just gone into gate 64 at 9:44 this morning, before completion, the gate of confusion. This is the abstract mental pressure that is trying to make sense out of the memories of experiences of the past. It's a constant pressure in this gate, it's a head center, and it comes without apparent order. So this is a visual gate, and you might have heard me talk about it before, that we sort of see images, but not like a film strip. It's almost like the film has been cut up and all of the images are in the wrong order. And that can be a very confusing and distressing almost. It can be a very difficult pressure to hold on to when you see the images, but you're not able to make sense out of them. But again, it's a natural part of the process, and knowing that can help to relieve the pressure a little, but it really has to be left to just chunter along in its own timing. You cannot force a realization out of this. You can't relieve the pressure by making something happen, because that can lead to more anxiety and more confusion. So that's, it's difficult. The confusion, we don't like being confused, it's hard. And I would ask you, as it's Venus that's in this gate, can you see the value in this? What would you say is the value of 64? Because we do tend to think of confusion as being something bad. We have to do something to clear it up. We have to make sense of it. Perhaps this process of traveling through the wheel is highlighting that confusion is just part of the process. It's part of an overall picture. It doesn't need changing. unless it changes in its own timing. But it's part of a natural progression, and we know that it leads into gate 47, where things are made sense of. So it's just allowing it to do what it does. The moon is still in gate 5. It went in at 8:39 this morning. This is the logical sacral gate of waiting and of fixed patterns, with a fundamental attunement to natural rhythms. This is waiting as an active state of awareness. And there can be a deep need for fixed rhythms here, for daily habits and rituals, like when you eat or when you rest, when you go for a walk, that kind of thing. And it's when you can stick to your own rhythms and your own habits that you can be really healthy in that. Being pulled out of your own habits and your own rhythms can be deeply unhealthy for you. Next, what have we got? The moon. I'm sorry, distracted by blackbird. You must know this happens by now. It's sitting there looking at me. I'm nearly finished. I'll be with you in a minute. The moon moves into gate 26 at 1909. This is the taming power of the great and the gate of the egoist. It's in the ego center. It's tribal, and it's a gate that can sell coal to coal miners. It can be very tricky. It can be a bit manipulative. And it does what it does for the material well-being of the community. They can turn almost any situation into something marketable, thereby ensuring their material needs get met. It's a real gift to have this gate. And I know some people don't like hearing that they can be manipulative. Well, reframe it. Look up manipulative and see what other words equal that or are a synonym for it, and see if there's something there that actually you can resonate to. And don't make it bad. It's not a moral judgment. It's a gift, and we can all experience it during this transit. So as I've said at the beginning, it's a double sun day. So there will be another transit forecast. I'll put it out about 9 o'clock this evening, BST. So look out for that. That will be the 5th line of this 4th gate. And so I will see you later on today. And until then, go gently.